What's up, guys? Brady here, coming at you with a discography ranking for Mastodon in preparation for their upcoming album Marrow Deep, releasing in just a couple of days. What's there to say about Mastodon that hasn't already been said? They're one of the most consistent, one of the most critically acclaimed, and just one of the best modern metal bands for the last 25 years now. And I personally was so thrilled at the fact that we were getting a new Mastodon record this year. I think the band's future was left kind of uncertain after the tragic passing of former key songwriter, guitarist, and vocalist Brent Hines. But they're back with now 2 new members as well, with their first album in 5 years. And before I review that album, which I will be doing shortly after it drops this Friday, I wanted to take a look back on all Mastodon's records prior and give them a proper ranking. Before we get started, I want to encourage you all to please subscribe to the channel. Also, if you're a Mastodon fan, check out the Deeper Dives episode I've already done with Mastodon with my buddy Lorenzo. If you enjoy this video especially, we go even more in depth for that video. I'll make sure to link it up in the suggestion cards. And the one exclusion for this video that I want to mention is I'm not going to be including the Call of the Mastodon demo/album. I know the band has said it's like their first album, but to me, it's always been more of a demo. And let's get into it with the album that I have to put last place. I can't imagine I'm going to have much disagreement on this one. That album is The Hunter. I know a good amount of fans like this album, but for me personally, it's always jumped out as their weakest album. And I mean, that might just be because they were following up Crack the Skye, which we'll get into that album, but that's almost an impossible feat. So it might just come down to that. But when you listen to the record in its entirety, it's clear that the band did go for a much more dumbed down, accessible, and just somewhat more flat and unadventurous sound on this record compared to, honestly, all of their other records. They also bring like this kind of quirky, tongue-in-cheek sense of humor to this album that doesn't quite work for me. I just find it hard to take some of these songs seriously as a result. I mean, for one, just some of these titles, Octopus Has No Friends and Bedazzled Fingernails, not even just the titles alone in these cases, but the songs themselves just going for like this twangy rock sound that just sounds a little bit awkward to me. And like the poppy melodies on like the big single from this one, Curl of the Burl, just like it doesn't quite work for me. The song comes off a little bit cheesy. This is probably the band's most accessible record all the way through. So in a way, I do still think it has a place in the discography. It's just that the execution itself kind of falls short for me. But like the song Stargasm, despite the weird title, is a song that has a certain richness to it that I really enjoy, and it's probably my favorite track on here. Top 3 tracks, however, I will give to Black Tongue, Stargasm, of course, and the title track. Next up has got to be Hushed and Grim. This record is a little frustrating to me because the highlights on this record are real highlights, in particular the singles. I remember being hyped for this record when they were dropping the singles for this one. First, you had Pushing the Tides, which has that just earworm, yet really dissonant, squealy riff that reappears throughout, and just a lot of energy, a powerful, urgent chorus. Then you had Tear Drinker, which was the more accessible song and like clear reach for a single with this one, but still really powerful song. I especially love the emotion that Braun delivers in the chorus with his vocals. And then Sickle in Peace, despite starting off with like a children's choir, which is something that I tend to heavily criticize, the song is also one of the best on the record. It's got the somber, clean guitar parts played in the odd time signature, which I love, and the chorus gets a lot riffier, and it has a lot more up and down dynamics overall, this song. But for me, the record in its entirety did not hold up. For one, it's way too long. Like for these songs themselves being long already and somewhat lacking in dynamics, which I'll touch on, the album being an hour and a half long makes it especially a chore to get through. By the time you get to songs like Gobblers of Dregs and Eyes of Serpents, which maybe individually are fine, you're just burnt out. And these songs almost breaching the 7-minute mark, it makes this album really hard to get through in one sitting. And then you get to the closer, Gigantium, which feels like absolute filler at the end of this long record. So this album ends up being one that really reaches for more of that epic sound. So kind of the opposite of the band's trajectory with The Hunter. But ironically, it's the more accessible, catchier songs and slimmer songs also that end up being the highlights for me. And the top 3 tracks I'm going to give to exactly those, the singles, Pushing the Tides, Tear Drinker, and Sickle in Peace. Next up has got to be Once More Around the Sun. Another record that you could tell the band was going for more of like a psychedelic vibe with especially some of the deeper cuts on this record, and the album art, which is not normally something I talk about. This might be my favorite Mastodon album cover ever. It's so sick, but unfortunately, the album, again, doesn't quite deliver in the direction I think the band wanted it to. The result to me, with especially the deeper cuts on this record, which I tend to find that it lacks a bit, the songs have less dynamics. Again, they're less nuanced, a bit more simple, and they're just not quite as memorable at the same time. But I still like the direction that they went on with this record, and a song like "Chimes at Midnight" is an example of when they really pull it off, because that song does have the prominent psychedelia, and it comes off very trippy and has some really entrancing melodies. Very similarly to Hushed and Grim, I find the best two tracks on this record to be the two big singles, the Motherlode and High Road, just for the simple fact that they are so freaking catchy. And they have other qualities too, like the Motherlode still has the really techie drums from Braun that are a staple of their sound. They're just delivered in a more precise way, and I think it really works. In High Road, that song still has the hostility. That main riff is pretty cool. And both songs have absolutely soaring choruses that are really their intended apex that delivers. This is the record, and I'll salute them for this, that Braun really sounds like fully confident and equal to the other two guys as far as his clean vocals go. Again, those main two singles being great instances of that, because it's Braun's vocals in that chorus that really sends them home. Unfortunately, the rest of the album just isn't quite as memorable enough to make this one of the better records for the band to me. Top three tracks are the three tracks I singled out: the Motherlode, High Road, and Chimes at Midnight. Coming in at number 5, we got Emperor of Sand. The first record that I was like a fan for, because I discovered them on Once More Around the Sun. And a pretty solid album. Definitely, to me, their best post-Crack the Skye album. And some parts with the emotion put into it feel like a notable return to form after the previous two records, The Hunter and Once More Around the Sun, were a lot more melodic and accessible. Of course, the best instance being the epic closing track on here, Jaguar God, which is likely my favorite Mastodon song ever, especially listening back on it now, given context and hearing Brent's despair in his vocals in that intro part. The song packs so much emotion. I love how the intro part comes back later in the song to close it, and also that kind of proggy, exotic sounding middle section. The song has a lot of different parts to it that just work so well. Very labyrinth-like song, and to me it's an absolute masterpiece. And then what I think gives this album over the edge over the bottom three is that there are moments on the accessible side and moments on the more technical and deep cut side of things that shine. Obviously, Jaguar God being an instance of the latter, but you have other tracks on here like Show Yourself and Steam Breather and Ancient Kingdom that bring the catchiness in a way that, makes them appealing as singles. And I know Steam Breather and Show Yourself were like two of the band's most successful singles ever, so it really shows. Show Yourself has always stuck out to me as one of the band's catchiest songs ever, maybe their catchiest song of all time. I remember having it on repeat so much when it first dropped in early 2017. And Steam Breather I like too. It's got like that eeriness to it that I think is really cool. And then again, on the other side of things, you have tracks like Roots Remain and Clandestiny that feel a little bit like the heavier side of Mastodon's older material coming back, and also dialing up the technicality and the progginess once again, which, again, I feel like those previous two records ever so slightly lacked. This record delivers more of that good balance. Top three tracks: Jaguar God, Clandestiny, and Steam Breather. The 3 to 4 spot was very hard for me to come up with as far as ranking, but I'm actually going to give the number 4 spot to Leviathan. I've heard many people refer to this as their best album, and it's still, it's this one or Crack the Skye that might be the band's most celebrated album ever. And I can see why. I mean, the concept of it, obviously taking inspiration from Moby Dick, and the imagery of not just the album cover, but the sonic imagery of the music itself really fits that. Compared to the first record, you hear notably less extreme metal influence on here, but I think that is matched with some more memorable songwriting. Obviously, Blood and Thunder being the best into that, one of the band's most well-known songs, and fittingly so. I mean, it's got every reason you could possibly love Mastodon in it, between the groovy riff that drives the song, the technicality, especially in the drums, the timing coming in for the bridge, This is one of those songs that kind of just makes sense why it was such a successful song for the band. Looking back on it now, and even still to this day, it still holds up. But other tracks like Iron Tusk is a great one that brings the grooves, again, in a way that really matches the imagery of the story of the album. And then on the flip side, you have a track like Sea Beast, which really cranks up the atmosphere, again, in really fitting ways that bring to mind that concept. Another highlight for me on this one would be definitely like the pseudo closing track, I'll say, Hearts Alive. The proper closer is instrumental, but this track, Hearts Alive, is just very epic and probably the high point just in dynamics and drama on the whole record. A great album overall, really great album. But I think it gets beat by other albums in both the technicality department and the emotive department, which I'll talk about both with these next 3 picks. Top 3 tracks: Hearts Alive, Blood and Thunder, and Sea Beast. Number 3, I'm going to give to the debut album, Remissions. People who normally watch my rankings will know that debut albums have a tendency to rank lower for me, just because oftentimes these are the records that the band is still figuring out their sound with, so they're not quite as confident, or there are production issues. This album has none of that. Or I guess maybe like you could say the album sounds like they're trying to figure out their sound, but I actually think that works in its favor here because the album is a lot more dynamic. It's got some blatant extreme metal influence, which definitely sets it apart given context. It sticks out because it is still the band's heaviest album. Like the majority of this record, I would almost classify as straight up progressive thrash metal and even progressive death metal at times. There's a lot of screamed, unclean vocals on here that again really sets this one apart. And for this being a debut, like there's still like a very identifiable sound here. Like it still sounds like Mastodon. Like they cannot be mistaken for any other band on here. I think that's something else that sets this debut apart from other debuts I've ranked lower. Top 3 tracks: Crusher Destroyer, Old Nessie, and Trilobite. So now we get to the top 2, and I love both of these records. I would consider them both masterpieces, actually, and it was very hard to rank them. But number 2, you guys will agree with me, I'm sure. Number 2 has to be Blood Mountain. This one and Remission, I would maybe say, are the band's most underrated records because, like, this album, I feel like gets maybe overshadowed by Crack the Skye after it and Leviathan before it. And this is a killer record. I love this record and my number 1 pick for the exact 2 same reasons, just because they crank up the emotion and that every track feels like it has like a distinct personality on here. There are no 2 tracks that sound the same. Right away, the opener, The Wolf is Loose, has that quirky progginess to it that you especially love the band for already. The big single on here, Colony of Birchmen, has that really infectious, like staggering march to it. My favorite track on this record is actually Sleeping Giant. I love the way this song moves. For one, that intro part is so just entrancing and almost dreamy in a way, but it has like this drama to it at the same time. Especially when those lead guitars first kick in, like that's always a part that just gets me gazing off into space and just literally entrances me. And then you get Brent's vocals kicking in the verses, and it packs the song with, again, an extra just oomph of energy and some emotion as well. And then the band gets like all noodly at the end there with almost like those spoken word type parts that still work. Hand of Stone feels like it's this confined energy that keeps trying to escape, and then finally when the song really kicks up in heaviness near the end, it feels like this massive payoff. That's another song that I think just flows really well. And then the closer, Pendulous Skin, is another track that's just very atmospheric and packs a lot of like emotion with it in a way that's almost a bit twangy at the same time. Just another unique track. And yeah, for me, this album's a masterpiece, and it's somewhat of like a new discovery because like I listened to this album years ago when I first dove into the band's back catalog, but I really fell in love with it more when I was preparing for that deeper dive video earlier this year. Like I said, with Lorenzo the Professor. Again, watch that video, especially if you're a Mastodon fan. But it's especially satisfying getting like that renewed love for a record that you kind of just forgot about before. I definitely had that experience with this one. Top 3 tracks: Sleeping Giant, Pendulous Skin, and Colony of Birchmen. And yeah, number 1's Crack the Skye. Like, I hate to be in the majority and having my take on this record just not being very original, because like this is widely considered the band's best album and just one of the best progressive metal records I think ever at this point. But like rightfully so, it still sticks out as the band's most nuanced, most bold, and most proggy album to date, and also perhaps their most emotional. The prog especially rears its head with just the album structure being 7 rather long songs, which is something that's, for me, kind of hit or miss. But again, this record's perfect. Like, every single song has its own personality. It has real high points. And again, they're all different from each other. They have their own identity. There's no filler. There's no wasted second on this album. Right away, too, the opener, Oblivion, which is just like the perfect opening track on this record, just is so haunting, especially in that main eerie chord progression, and then the despair in Brent's vocals in the chorus. Then Divination and Quintessence come in with more like frantic, off-the-wall nature. Divination's being a lot more quirky, and then Quintessence sounding a lot more like discordant and frantic. The Tsar is one of the band's best songs ever. Just all the peaks and valleys in this song is just, it's breathtaking, and the flow of it the whole time is just, this song maybe more than ever is like a true testament to this band's talent. Almost 11 minutes long this song is, and it keeps me hooked every time I listen to it the whole way through. The psychedelia and trippy influence comes in on Ghost of Karelia, which is another highlight on here for me. The title track is full of a lot of tension and drama to it that just makes it really, again, tense to listen to in a good way. And then The Last Baron is, of course, a grand epic closer just for good measure. Perfect album, and one of the best prog metal albums of all time, and that's not even a hot take. Top 3 tracks: The Tsar, Oblivion, and Coast of Karelia. Anyways, that's all I have for this Mastodon album ranking. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to comment below your thoughts on my thoughts, as well as how would you rank Mastodon's albums. And also make sure to stay tuned for my review of Marrow Deep, hopefully shortly after it drops, although I might need some time with it. Mastodon's kind of got that nuanced sound. I don't want to just rush a review out right away, but, be patient with me, and I'll give you a quality review of it. And until next time, thank you guys so much for watching again, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.